It was one of those rare mornings where everything felt serene. The sun had barely risen, casting a soft golden light through the sheer curtains of Maya's living room. She sat curled up on the couch, wrapped in her plush robe, a steaming mug of coffee cradled in her hands. Outside, the neighborhood was quiet. Birds chirped faintly, and the faint hum of distant traffic barely reached her ears. It was her rare moment of solitude, a pause from the endless responsibilities of work and home life. As Maya sipped her coffee, savoring the warmth, she thought about how peaceful life had felt lately. Her mornings usually started in a rush, emails, breakfast, errands, but today she had given herself permission to just exist. The gentle aroma of coffee mixed with the faint scent of her lavender-scented candle, creating a comforting cocoon. She was on the brink of fully relaxing when a sharp, insistent knock at the door shattered the calm. Startled, Maya nearly dropped her mug. Knocks at this hour were unusual. Most neighbors didn't stir before 9. She hesitated, pulling her robe tighter around her, and peered through the peephole. Outside stood Alex, her neighbor from across the street. He looked unusually flustered, his hair slightly disheveled, eyes darting nervously. Something about his expression immediately set Maya on edge. It wasn't just the early hour, it was the urgency radiating from him. "Alex? Is everything okay?" Maya called, trying to mask both concern and embarrassment. Being caught in her robe felt mildly humiliating, but the concern for her neighbor outweighed any vanity. Alex's response was a hurried wave of his hands. "Maya, I really need your help. It's complicated, but I can't handle this alone." His voice trembled slightly, betraying the anxiety he tried to hide behind his words. Maya opened the door wider, feeling the weight of the morning shift instantly. There was a strange tension in the air, a sense that something beyond a simple favor was about to unfold. Alex's glance flicked nervously over his shoulder as though making sure no one else was watching. She noticed the crease of worry on his forehead, the tightness around his jaw. "What's going on?" she asked cautiously, stepping outside and keeping a respectful distance. Robe still loosely tied around her. Alex hesitated, then blurted out, it's kind of a situation with my apartment. There's something strange happening, and I don't know who else to ask. I need your help, Maya, please." Maya's mind raced. She didn't know what Alex meant by strange, but the urgency in his voice was impossible to ignore. Despite the early hour, her casual morning, and her partially dressed state, she felt a pull of curiosity mixed with concern. Something was wrong, and it seemed she was the only person Alex trusted enough to approach. In that moment, Maya realized that her quiet, comfortable morning was about to be turned upside down, and whatever awaited her outside the door would change the day, maybe even her life, in ways she couldn't yet imagine. Maya's heart was still racing from the abrupt knock when Alex took a deep breath, glancing nervously around the quiet street. There was a tense edge to his demeanor, as though he had been wrestling with something for days and finally reached the point where he could no longer handle it alone. The early morning light revealed a hint of desperation in his eyes, and Maya felt a mix of concern and unease. Whatever this was, it was serious. I don't even know where to start," Alex stammered, his hands fidgeting at his sides. It's not normal. Something happened in my apartment last night, and I can't figure out what it is. I thought I could handle it, but—" His voice trailed off, leaving the sentence unfinished but heavy with implication. Maya frowned. Curiosity piqued despite the surreal circumstances. She was still in her robe, half expecting this to be a minor emergency, a broken pipe, perhaps, or a lost pet, but the look on Alex's face told her otherwise. There was a strange gravity to his presence, a tension that hinted at danger, mystery, or something deeply personal. "Alex, you're scaring me a little," Maya admitted cautiously. What kind of situation are we talking about? He hesitated, swallowing hard. It's complicated. I can't explain it fully, but I think someone's been in my apartment. Last night, I heard noises, doors opening, things moving, but when I checked, nothing was there. I thought I imagined it, but then I noticed some things were out of place this morning. Maya's pulse quickened. This was far beyond an ordinary problem. Someone had potentially invaded Alex's private space, and he had come to her for help. The sheer urgency in his tone made it clear that this wasn't a trivial matter. It required immediate attention. I don't know if I should be involved, Maya said, her voice a mixture of hesitation and intrigue. This sounds dangerous. Alex's eyes pleaded. Please, Maya, I trust you. You're the only person I can think of who could help me make sense of this. I just need someone there with me. I don't know what else to do. Maya took a deep breath. She knew helping him meant stepping out of her comfort zone, leaving the safety of her apartment and facing an unknown situation. Yet, despite her initial hesitation, something compelled her to agree. Part of it was concern for Alex, but another part was curiosity. An undeniable pull toward the mystery that had invaded the quiet neighborhood morning. All right, she finally said, tying her robe a little tighter. I'll help you, but you need to tell me everything as we go. No half-truths, no exaggerations. Alex nodded, relief flooding his features. Thank you, Maya. I promise I'll explain everything. You just need to trust me. In that moment, Maya realized that her morning, which had begun so peacefully, had irrevocably changed. The ordinary had shifted into something unpredictable. Whatever awaited them in Alex's apartment, Maya had a feeling it would test her courage, intelligence, and composure in ways she could never have anticipated. And it all began because of a single knock on her door. Maya took a deep breath, trying to steady the mix of apprehension and curiosity swirling inside her. She grabbed her phone, slipping it into the pocket of her robe, and followed Alex out the door. The morning air was crisp, carrying the faint scent of dew and freshly cut grass, but the serenity of the neighborhood now felt strangely oppressive. Every rustle of leaves, every distant sound seemed amplified, heightening her sense that something was off. As they approached Alex's apartment, Maya noticed little details that unsettled her. A window that was usually closed was slightly ajar, a small object on the stoop seemed out of place, and the door to the neighboring unit was wide open, though no one was around. Her pulse quickened. Something about these signs made her feel like they were stepping into a situation bigger than either of them had anticipated. Alex's pace was hurried, but tense, as if every step might reveal another unexpected problem. He glanced at Maya with a mixture of gratitude and worry. I don't want you to be in danger, he admitted quietly. I don't know what else to do. Maya nodded, even though she felt a knot of fear in her stomach. She had no idea what awaited them inside, but the thought of leaving Alex to face it alone was impossible. She reminded herself that curiosity and courage often walked hand in hand, and sometimes stepping into the unknown was the only way forward. When they entered the apartment, the first thing Maya noticed was the disarray. A few drawers were slightly open, papers scattered across the floor, and a faint smell of something unfamiliar lingered in the air. Nothing appeared overtly dangerous yet, but the subtle signs of intrusion were enough to trigger her instincts. Alex led her to the living room, where he began explaining what had happened the previous night in more detail. I was asleep, and then I heard it. The sound of footsteps. At first, I thought it was my imagination, but then I realized things had been moved. Some of my personal files were gone, and the front door had a faint scratch, like someone tried to force it open. His voice was tense, almost trembling. Maya's mind raced. This wasn't a simple misunderstanding. Someone had definitely been there, and it wasn't just a random intrusion. It felt personal, targeted. She felt a strange bond forming with Alex in the face of this shared tension. He was vulnerable, honest, and relying entirely on her support. The room seemed to close in on her, the once familiar apartment now feeling like a place of mystery and danger. Maya realized she would have to push beyond her usual boundaries, not just her physical comfort, still in her robe, but her emotional and mental limits as well. She had to trust her instincts, stay alert, and think clearly. As she looked at Alex, she could see his gratitude and anxiety blending into one shared determination. They were in this together now. And as the door clicked shut behind them, Maya understood that the ordinary morning she had begun with coffee and solitude had transformed into a confrontation with the unknown. A fastitude had transformed into a confrontation with the mu, a confrontation with the unknown. A challenge that would test both her courage and her quick thinking in ways she could never have anticipated. The apartment felt heavier than before, as if the air itself carried the weight of secrets waiting to be uncovered. Maya followed Alex cautiously, her eyes scanning every corner, every shadow. The cozy familiarity of his home had vanished, replaced by an unsettling tension. It wasn't just the scattered papers or the faint scratch on the door. It was something more, something she couldn't yet put into words. Alex stopped abruptly in front of a small bookshelf. "It's here," he whispered, pointing at a folder lying on the floor. "I don't understand it, but I found this. And now I think someone's been following me for weeks." Maya knelt down to examine it. The folder contained letters, receipts, and photographs, all seemingly mundane, but together forming a puzzle she couldn't yet decipher. What struck her was the meticulousness. Someone had gone through Alex's life, tracing details she didn't even know existed. Her pulse quickened. This wasn't just a random burglary. It was deliberate, calculated, and deeply personal. What? Who would do this? Maya asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Alex shook his head, running a hand through his hair. "I don't know. I thought I could figure it out on my own, but I'm lost. And now I'm afraid it could get worse." Maya felt a chill run down her spine. The situation had escalated far beyond the ordinary. What had started as a seemingly simple disturbance had turned into a deeper mystery with dangerous undertones. The stakes were no longer just about Alex's privacy, they were about safety, trust, and uncovering a hidden truth before it was too late. As they sifted through the contents of the folder, Maya noticed a recurring pattern. Several photographs included a figure lurking in the background. At first, it seemed coincidental, but as they pieced them together, it became clear someone had been surveilling Alex. The realization hit them, both like a punch to the gut. Maya's mind raced. Every instinct screamed caution, yet she felt an undeniable pull to continue. She realized that stepping away now wouldn't just abandon Alex. It would leave the mystery unsolved and possibly put him in greater danger. The adrenaline surged, sharpening her senses. She began noticing subtle signs she had missed earlier, a faint footprint by the doorframe, a window slightly ajar in the kitchen, and a shadow moving outside their peripheral vision. Suddenly, Alex froze. "Wait, look at this," he said, holding up a note tucked inside one of the photographs. The words were cryptic, almost taunting. "I see everything. You can't hide." Maya felt a shiver run through her. This was no longer about misplaced items or an imagined intruder. It was a direct, personal threat. The ordinary morning she had begun in her robe had spiraled into something far more sinister. And in that moment, Maya understood that solving this puzzle would demand more than courage. It would demand cleverness, vigilance, and an unwavering trust between her and Alex. The twist was undeniable. The threat wasn't random. It was targeted, it was personal, and it was far more dangerous than either of them had imagined. Maya's quiet morning had vanished, replaced by a pulse-pounding reality where every decision mattered, and every moment could change the outcome. The apartment felt like a trap. Every shadow seemed to hold a secret, every creak of the floorboards a warning. Maya's heart pounded as she and Alex moved cautiously through the rooms, trying to piece together the mystery that had turned their morning upside down. The folder with the photographs and letters lay open on the coffee table, a silent testament to the calculated attention someone had paid to Alex. "We have to figure out who did this," Maya said, her voice firm despite the adrenaline coursing through her veins. She felt a strange combination of fear and determination. This wasn't just about curiosity anymore. It was about protecting Alex, herself, and possibly uncovering a dangerous truth that had been hidden for weeks. Alex nodded, his usual composure shaken but his resolve evident. "I've thought about it, and I think the person is still nearby. I've noticed things going missing, small details being tampered with. Whoever this is, they're watching, waiting for the right moment." Maya's mind raced. She suggested setting a trap of sorts. They would remain in the apartment, watch for signs of movement, and try to catch the intruder in the act. Every sense was heightened. Sounds that would normally be ignored, a soft tapping at the window, the faint scuff of shoes outside the door, now felt significant. Hours passed in tense anticipation. Maya and Alex whispered in strategic corners, eyes darting toward every possible entry point. The air was thick with suspense, each passing minute stretching the tension taut. And then a shadow flickered near the hallway. Maya's pulse spiked. "Did you see that?" she whispered, pointing toward the hallway. Alex nodded, eyes wide. "Stay calm. We need to know who it is before reacting." Slowly they advanced, hearts hammering. The intruder emerged, not a faceless criminal, but someone unexpected, a familiar figure from the neighborhood, someone they both knew casually but never suspected. The realization sent shockwaves through Maya. Why would this person target Alex? What was the motive behind weeks of surveillance and silent intimidation? The confrontation was tense. Words were exchanged carefully, probing for truth while keeping emotions in check. Maya realized that solving the mystery required more than courage. It required quick thinking and empathy, the ability to read subtle cues in the intruder's body language and tone. Each revelation peeled back layers of deception, misunderstandings, jealousy, and hidden agendas that had festered quietly, now erupting into a confrontation that could no longer be avoided. Maya and Alex stood their ground, working together seamlessly despite the fear and shock. The intruder's defenses weakened under their combined resolve, revealing the full truth behind the surveillance, the cryptic notes, and the mysterious disturbances. What had seemed like a dangerous, unmanageable situation was finally coming into focus, a blend of human error, misunderstanding, and personal motives that had escalated far beyond anyone's expectations. The tension that had gripped Maya and Alex all morning finally began to ease. The intruder had been confronted, the motives revealed, and the immediate danger neutralized. Yet, the air in Alex's apartment still carried a faint residue of unease, the kind that lingers after an adrenaline-charged ordeal. Maya sat on the edge of the sofa, robe still loosely tied, her mind racing as she tried to process everything that had unfolded. Alex moved around the apartment, carefully straightening a few displaced items and closing the windows that had been tampered with. The earlier chaos of scattered papers, open drawers, and cryptic notes now felt like remnants of a puzzle that had finally been solved. "I can't believe this actually happened," Alex said quietly, running a hand over his face in disbelief. I didn't know who else to turn to. I'm so glad you were here." Maya smiled faintly, though fatigue and lingering anxiety made it a small, tentative gesture. "It was intense," she admitted. "I never imagined that a morning in my robe would turn into this, but I'm glad I came. I'm glad we figured it out." They sat together in the living room, drinking water and trying to calm their racing hearts. For Maya, the ordeal had been a crash course in courage and resilience. She realized that stepping into the unknown, despite fear and uncertainty, could lead to extraordinary outcomes. Her morning, once defined by calm solitude, had become a test of character, quick thinking, and empathy. As the reality of what had happened settled in, Maya began reflecting on her own reactions. She had been startled, anxious, and even embarrassed at the start, caught in her robe, confronted by an urgent and mysterious request. Yet she had adapted, acted decisively, and faced a challenge she never expected. It was a reminder that ordinary people could rise to extraordinary occasions when circumstances demanded it. Alex, too, seemed changed. The fear and uncertainty that had driven him to Maya's door that morning had been replaced with relief, gratitude, and a new sense of understanding. The ordeal had forced him to trust someone, to admit vulnerability, and to rely on the support of a neighbor who had proven dependable in the most unexpected way. Before leaving, Maya helped Alex organize the evidence and secure his apartment. They exchanged a look, unspoken words passing between them, a recognition of the bond formed through shared tension, trust, and courage. What had started as a simple knock on the door had led to an adventure that neither would ever forget. As Maya walked back to her own apartment, she reflected on how dramatically her day had shifted. A quiet morning had turned into a confrontation with the unknown, a test of bravery, and ultimately, a story she would remember for years. She realized that life often throws unexpected challenges in the most mundane moments, and how one chooses to respond can reveal strength and courage they never knew they had. In the end, Maya smiled softly to herself, feeling a sense of closure and growth. The morning's chaos had left her speechless at first, but now she felt empowered, alert, and profoundly aware of the unexpected ways life could unfold, all beginning with a simple knock on the door.